program committed to deliver information that's important to you and your community. Your hosts are Nathaniel and Patricia Gadsden.
Hello and welcome to Life Esteem again. Always great to have you as a viewer. Hey, today we're going to talk about a very unique organization here in central Pennsylvania called Solidarity Uganda. We have with us Phil Wilmot, and also we will be joined later by his wife Susan, who's actually from Uganda. And Phil, we're so glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, definitely.
Great to be here, thanks.
Yes, indeed. Phil, tell us all about Solidarity Uganda.
Solidarity Uganda started about a year and a half ago in the northern part of Uganda. We're an organization that's based in central Pennsylvania to some extent, but obviously our work is in Uganda. And what we do, we facilitate nonviolent action trainings. We can talk a little bit more about that, but nonviolence is a powerful tool to create social change all around the world. We saw a lot of potential for it in northern Uganda, where there's rampant land theft, particularly where there's oil deposits or fertile land. So by doing nonviolence trainings, we equip the community with some tools, some knowledge, some expertise to resist that kind of oppression.
What got you involved with Uganda specifically? Tell us about how that came about.
Sure, it was kind of an accident. In 2009, I studied at Uganda Christian University just for a semester, and I thought it was just going to be for a semester, but I found love there, and you'll meet my wife later. And so that kind of put me in a position of, you know, what do I do? Do I go back to the States? Do I stay in Uganda? And I've kind of still been back and forth in between that question, but you know, I'm very much attached to Uganda via my wife. So yeah, I would say it was an accident, really.
Okay.
But I'm grateful for it.
All right.
Yeah. But you brought about the organization because you must have seen some things that kind of, you know, pricked your consciousness. Tell us about how the organization was formed when you and Susan sat down and began to talk about it, and now what does it do other than the trainings itself?
Sure. There was a time Susan and I were in the capital city, Kampala, and there was a fellow that had some mental disabilities, and he came up to us. And he was, you know, begging us to buy him some lunch. And, you know, we were in a hurry. It was kind of frustrating to deal with this gentleman. And so I just told Susan, you know, let's just buy the guy lunch so we can get out of here. So he'll stop bothering us. Yeah. So we took him to a little place where there was a lady cooking food. And on our way to that place, we passed about 9 or 10 other people that were just really soliciting to us, like, you know, we need your help, buy us some food, help us out with something. We began to kind of think, like, you know, it doesn't have to be like this. You know, it doesn't have to be a world where you help one person, but it's really just a drop in the bucket, you know. What is systemically causing poverty? What is systemically causing violence? And are we addressing those issues systemically, or are we, you know, just using the charity model, like putting a, you know, as they say, putting a Band-Aid on a huge wound? Is it really going to help? So we kind of toured around the country with the Church of Uganda, consulting with other nonprofits, and we found social workers, we found clergy, I found activists, students, all kinds of people, even you know, peasants and farmers. They were all kind of saying the same thing, that you know, this giving out food or like drilling a clean water well, you know, some of these things have their place, but at the end of the day, are we systemically making an impact, or is it just perpetuating a cycle of dependency?
Right.
So we wanted to kind of create some kind of network of people that had that mentality of we need to create social change, not just provide another nonprofit. So that's kind of the perspective that developed as we formed this organization.
Who else got involved with you? I know Susan and yourself, but who else saw the same possibility? Were there just the folks of Uganda or other outside folks from other countries, or who was represented at the table there?
Sure. We started with a group of about 6 Ugandan individuals and 2 Americans that were myself and another female that were just kind of helping out with logistics from the outside, funding and grant writing and those kind of things. But we had a committee of 6 Ugandans from different parts of Uganda.
Okay.
And we decided to start in northern Uganda because that's where we saw a lot of the most oppression the most land theft, those kind of issues. So we said this is, you know, a great place to begin. We were more familiar with it. Susan's from the northern part of Uganda, so that's where we made our home.
Okay.
You know, Pat and I had a wonderful opportunity to be facilitators at what's called the Robert Lynch Student Leadership Conference, and we do it every year. This year was in Lancaster, and we had the occasion to sit with two young ladies who are studying out in the western part of the state, I think through Penn State.
Penn State, New Kensington.
Penn State, New Kensington. And they're from Uganda. And so they were making a lot of observations about this country and, you know, this and that. And they weren't too happy about how they felt that a lot of the African-American students in particular didn't seem to embrace them. And, you know, and they felt that divide. But what do you see? I mean, you've been back to Uganda recently, by the way. I think, when were you there this year?
Yeah, I came back about a month ago. In early October is when I came back.
Okay, how long were you there?
I was there for 5 weeks this time.
Okay, 5 weeks. So when you know, you see what's happening on the continent, especially there in Uganda, you come back to this country. Do we seem to get it? Are African Americans, are we connected in the way that we should be? Do we even know, you know, what's going on in Uganda? What's your take on that?
No, I think there's definitely a disconnect. I mean, I'm speaking as a white male here, but there's definitely a disconnect between the African American community and the African communities. I think the biggest shame, from my perspective, is that, you know, these, if we can call them two communities, the African Americans and the Africans, you know, they face a lot of the same issues, a lot of the same systemic issues: poverty, violence in the streets. You know, housing is an issue, hunger. You know, there's a lot of these same kind of systemic issues. And, you know, some people say that there's this cultural phenomenon that when you feel like you're at the bottom of the barrel, you got to feel like you're a little bit above somebody else, so that, you know, you feel like you're a little bit more human. And I think that kind of dynamic might exist between, you know, some Africans and African Americans. You know, they want to maintain their dignity, but I think really if they want that dignity to be properly, you know, maintained, then they should work together and learn from each other and have some kind of mutually beneficial relationship. What that looks like, I think, we don't know, but but I think we're getting there. Yeah.
Dr. Alfreda Johnson, who is a retired educator here in the city, you know, one of my mentors, she has taken trips back and forth to Ghana for a number of years. And then we know of other persons. I think this lady is out of Florida, something like that. She's taking people to South Africa.
No, she's out of Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. And taking people to South Africa. So there are a number of folks who are doing this kind of thing and trying to make the connection and doing a good job at it.
And also at the Robert Lynch Student Leadership, we had one of the faculty leaders who is from Kenya, okay, out of Pittsburgh area, that does trips.
Takes trips to Kenya. In fact, she was taking students mostly, but she said she only had one African American student in the last 10 years actually go. It was usually, you know, whites who would go, but the African American. But the other thing that happened was a couple of friends of mine, and Pat and I have been to Senegal, came back, and it's almost like they had a bad taste in their mouth. The thing that you described of the man begging you for food and begging you for this lunch, you know, they find that so and we found out that a lot of people a lot of young people are being organized to kind of do that. And so when some people go to the continent, they're turned off by the, you know, abject poverty and also the overwhelming sense of just gimme, 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 like that. But they don't see the bigger picture, do they? They don't understand all the, you know, different things that are going on. So, you know, I'm really glad that you're doing the work that you're doing, by the way. And I'd already pledged that our church, and you've been there at least twice, you and Susan, we really appreciate you coming. We'll make a pledge to help support your establishing your office here and then doing something, you know, there. So what do we need to say to the average person who's watching this program now in terms of getting involved with Solidarity Uganda? Why should they?
Sure. Well, I think it's a great organization. We try to put a focus on reciprocity, and by that I mean we want everybody that's involved with the organization to be transformed and to grow to some extent, including people like donors. We don't like these relationships of, you know, hand over a check and then you're done, and you feel good about yourself and you feel less guilty that there's, you know, poverty in the world or something like that. You know, we want that donor or that volunteer or that what some organizations call a beneficiary. We want everybody to, you know, be involved and to be transformed, and realize that, you know, it's through solidarity, it's through unity, it's through our human interconnectedness that we can progress together. Because otherwise, you know, we're still however much you want to, hand over the check, sometimes that's the subtext of that is saying like, I'm better than you and I'm more important. So we want to really critically take a look at that kind of relationship and develop something that's a little bit more beautiful and different than that.
That's really good. Phil.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that, because it always does kind of appear like you're just doing a handout. And that, I guess, makes you feel good for the moment. And yet, where is the real work going to need to be happening and take place, and how can you actively participate?
Right.
But that is not to say you don't want money, though.
Right. Money definitely helps. Yeah.
Let's not get it twisted. You still want the donations.
No.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay. Yeah. And if they wanted to donate, how could they donate to Solidarity?
Sure. www.solidarityuganda.com has all kinds of information about what we do, has videos, has a place to give online. We accept monthly donations, one-time donations.
Okay.
There's some other opportunities on there about how you can get involved as well.
Oh, good. Okay.
Now let's talk about, again, you talked about nonviolent social change.
Yeah.
Are you looking at models like Gandhi, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? Are those the type of things that are part of that teachings that you work with, or what kinds of works are you working with?
Yes, definitely. I mean, those are huge figures in nonviolent history, and we use them in our curriculum as well as others. We kind of have an approach that's not necessarily rigidly sticking to one historical figure's kind of perspective of nonviolence, and we look particularly at the effectivity or the strategic nature of nonviolence, kind of using nonviolence the same way as, say, a military general would use military tactics. What are your weapons? What are your personnel? What is your capacity, your resources? How do you leverage those to achieve your goals? Those are the same kind of questions that, say, a military general asks. We want to do the same thing, but we do believe that nonviolence is actually more powerful when it's strategically leveraged. You can read our curriculum on our website.
That
also.
is on there. Okay.
Yeah, and we release that to any organization that wants to adapt or edit or use it for their own purposes. Nice. There's also some other great resources if you just search them online for nonviolence curriculums. I think I guess I'll just discuss that there's three major types of nonviolent action that we, discuss and teach in our curriculum. One is protest and persuasion. Another one is non-cooperation. So, for example, like boycotting something. And then another one is nonviolent intervention. So, what can you actively do to, get in the way of violence or injustice and change that kind of situation?
Okay.
Yeah. We need you guys actively involved here in Harrisburg and every place else in this country because, as you know, violence is universal, it's international, and it's something that we have to all address. And I really applaud you for the work that you're doing and the perspective that you're taking on this kind of work. Yeah.
I'd like to say that Susan and I have been working on kind of a consulting project as a branch of Solidarity Uganda within the U.S. So if there are organizations that are working on social issues, if there's any, grassroots political groups or, say, like, religious communities that are working on, say, like gun violence in their community or poverty or something like that. We'd love to do a training for that local group, and we'll do it, at cost if it's a very local group. We'd love to do that.
But we do have an initiative right now
going
on through the local YWCA, and that's the whole emphasis is really looking at a couple of first responders. Or,
first responders.
Yeah.
It's your community responders network. And so, yes, they do have first responders.
And so we'll get you in touch with those people that you probably could assist with.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Now we're going to switch gears and have your wife come on, have Susan come on and talk a lot about Uganda itself. And so, Phil, really good talking with you, man.
Thank you so very much.
Great to be with you guys.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed. Same here. Okay.
All right.
And we'll just make that switch. And I know you got the little one over there, so if you just want to go over there and let Susan come on over. Susan's holding little Nadia. And now Phil would take Nadia, their daughter. Nadia, smile and look at her. That's great. Can you make it up here all by yourself? You're good? Okay.
Well, welcome, Susan.
Yeah, welcome, Susan. So good to see you. You can turn just a little bit there so the folks can see your face. Yes, indeed. So you're actually from Uganda then,
yes,
right?
I'm from Uganda.
Okay, real good. And we talked a lot about Solidarity Uganda, and I know that both of you and Phil were the co-founders of that. But give us a better sense of Uganda itself. You grew up in Uganda. Tell us about the country.
The one thing which is really good about Uganda is that Uganda has a huge community sense of it compared to, I would say, compared to the U.S. There's so much togetherness. People do stuff together. Everything has to be done together. There is no space for individualism, not as common as it is here.
So there's a lot of unity there.
Yeah, there's a lot of unity in so many ways, and their weather is also quite good. I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Good.
Yeah.
Now, you and Phil, I said, met as a result of his studies, okay, in Uganda.
Yes.
Were you in school as well, or?
Yes, that was in 2009. I was there, and he came for a cross-cultural study program for one semester.
Oh, cross-cultural studies
study
program.
program.
Okay, very good. Yeah, fantastic. Now, so there are many different languages spoken, or dialects,
Yes,
I guess.
there are so many.
Yeah. So how many different, do they call them tribes or just groups of people? How do they describe
yeah,
them?
well, the tribes have their own languages. There are about maybe over 50. I'm not quite sure. There are so many. Yeah, so many, yes.
And how many tribes actually make up Uganda itself, do you know? I mean, but it's a lot, huh?
It's a lot. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. They just say Uganda, and they think they're all the same, but it's not. There's a lot of different cultures there.
Yes, they just say Uganda. And most cases, usually they just say Africa.
Yes.
So they generalize everything Africa.
That's right,
yeah,
Africa,
yeah, it's different, yeah.
Have you actually traveled to other parts of Africa other than Uganda?
I've only been to Kenya, Nairobi. Only Nairobi. That's like the capital city of Kenya. I've only been there like a month.
Okay,
Yeah.
Is it very different than where you're from?
It's not that different. It's a lot similar in different ways, but the only difference is that the weather is slightly different. It's more drier in Kenya, and the food is also quite different there.
Okay.
Is it the food?
The food, yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, the food is different too.
Okay.
Yeah.
In what regards? Because food's always interesting. I mean, you say it's different because
It's the style of cooking, and the vegetables are different. Yeah, they're different, and the things that they grow there is also different. Yeah.
was interesting you made that comment because the two young ladies we spoke about that were from Uganda that we met a week or so ago, the younger of the two had just started her studies here, and she was having a hard time adapting to the food here.
Yeah. She did
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah.
That was also a big thing for me when I
Was it-
first came.
Yeah.
It took me a while to get used to that, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm doing well with that.
The other thing that struck me is the weather. I mean, had you ever experienced snow before you got here to the States?
No,
Or does it ever get this cold in Uganda?
It doesn't get this cold in Uganda.
Yeah.
In Uganda, it's always like upper 70s,
Oh,
and
wow.
not humid,
It's not humid.
not cold. It only gets cold when it rains once in a while.
Okay.
Just once in a while rain.
Yeah, once in a during the rainy season. it
Yeah,
rains,
during the rainy season. Okay, yeah.
It rains.
You know, we had talked to Phil about how so many African Americans just don't seem to have the kind of connection you would think we would have, you know, with Africa in terms of a real sense of knowing the people, embracing, you know, the cultures. Have you experienced that since you've been here in the States? How do you find the reception?
Well, my experience here, I feel like they're more interested in the fact that I'm African, because they kind of feel like, oh, she's from Africa, so there is some kind of relationship that we do have with her back in history, because that's where the origin I came from, right, from Africa. So I feel like that's, for me, I feel like that's, they feel there is at least some kind of bloodline with any African person. And I think that's interesting, because they still feel there is still that connection in that, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you probably still have family in Uganda?
Yeah, I do have family in Uganda.
Okay. Have they had an opportunity to come here to the United States, any of those family members?
Not close family members.
Not close?
Yeah, not close.
Okay.
You know, Phil mentioned the fact that Solidarity Uganda, you two of you formed that because of all of the various issues that you noticed in Uganda. You know, and it's some very deep systemic stuff going on. You had to overcome a very dark period, if you want to call it that, with Idi Amin and all that he represented. How, did you live through that? Did your parents live through that? Tell us about that period.
I didn't live through that. My parents didn't live through that. This has been happening in a different part of Uganda. It didn't really affect us that much.
Oh, okay.
But it affected my friends that I knew and a few other people that I knew just after that whole period. I knew them after that, and they would tell me stories of what happened to their sisters, their brothers, their friends, and all that stuff. So I'm lucky that it didn't affect me, but I really feel I had for those that it affected, those who lost their loved ones, and for some reason I feel like I still don't know, what it meant for them at that time, because I didn't experience it personally. I just heard about it, but it affects me much because it affected people that I knew. So
Yeah, absolutely.
kind of hurt with them.
Yeah.
Does that have to do also with some of the nonviolent social change pieces that you and Phil are working with?
Yes, it's slightly related because right now what we're dealing with is the land grabbing that's happening in Uganda, and I think the original cause of that is because while people didn't have the time to like take track of their land ownership because they were so much in the run because of during this period they couldn't keep track of their land issues, and the land that we are struggling for is customary owned, so they don't have paperwork to prove that. So while all this was happening, I feel like the government took advantage of that and said that this is government land and we have had this land for a long time. But then the people are like, well, we have also had this land for a long time, but we have no proof for this. And the reason why we have no proof for this is because this time that we should have been processing this work, we have been in the camps, we have been in the run. So there is really no way in which we can prove to you that this land is ours, but just to stick with our land and remain and know that we're not going to leave this place.
And that's such a sad thing. I mean, the whole land, just take your land. You know, and displace the people. Wow.
Yeah, and the reason that's why we're fighting for that is we don't want this kind of thing to keep happening, keep repeating itself over and over again. We want it to end with this that's happening right now and just not keep proceeding forward. Yeah. So hopefully.
Is the former government described as a democracy, or what kind of government is it described as?
It says it's a democratic government, but honestly speaking, I feel like according to what's happening right now for how long our president has ruled, it's not democratic at all. Yeah, because the votes are being raised and all the things have been happening. So I would say it's like the people have no say in who the president is, or who the president should be. So it's not really democratic.
Right.
Yeah.
How long has he been?
26.
26 years? That's a long time.
Yeah.
And no hope of him stepping down. That's not even.
Well, maybe he will, but we don't know when.
You don't will. So that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, you know, we talked to Phil a lot about Solidarity Uganda. What's your hope for Solidarity Uganda in terms of, you know, you establish an office here, but you're also establishing an office in Uganda. So what do you hope to accomplish in the next few years?
In the next few years, we hope that, because we just began, so we hope we will be more rooted in what we are doing, and like, because right now our main challenge is us not being in Uganda. For now, we are here and we are trying to have this thing work while we are here, and have people help us, people volunteer, and those who are willingly to actually 100% have their heart in this and believe in what we are doing. So right now we hope that if everybody comes together and have all their mindset and heart in what we're doing 100% and not have doubt in it, because it's always hard to believe in something that has just begun. So once we stay in it long, then the people begin to believe in it.
Right. Now, one of the other things I know you both do is you design jewelry. Tell us about that and the type of stuff.
Yes, jewelry. When I first started making jewelry, at first it was kind of like a joke. This is just something that I do out of my leisure time. Because jewelry, especially the kind of jewelry that I make in Uganda, it's not considered exotic because everyone makes it, and it's like everyone has it, everyone wears it, so it's like normal. But then, my husband's mother was like, you know what, actually Susan could come here and she could actually sell that if she wants to. I was like, oh yeah, that's actually a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. So then I come here and I'm like, actually we could actually use this to support the organization since we have just begun. I was like, oh yeah, that's good. So yeah, I started making some, and it takes a lot of time to just make one necklace. Yeah, so I started making that and selling, and the more people picked interest in it, the more I felt like I should keep making more. And so right now that's what it's helping us for now. We sell that jewelry, and I'm happy that people like wearing it.
Fantastic.
So it supports the organization.
Well, we have our event coming up.
That's right. On December the 7th, in fact, at Harrisburg Area Community College, we're having our second, this is our second time, in fact, Pat and I, with Life Esteem, hosting what's called Kwanzaa, the Kwanzaa Festival, annual Kwanzaa Festival. And HAC has done this for years with the leadership of Patricia Thompson, and now Pat and I are just sort of doing it. And we want you to come out because you'll get a chance to meet Susan and Phil and buy some of that wonderful jewelry that Susan has.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty. I'd advise the men out there to come and buy that stuff. For
The
you
men
guys.
as well?
Oh,
Okay.
The men. Oh yeah, we do have some men products too.
Okay, good.
Bracelets and yeah, they could wear some.
Good, good. Well, the event itself is from 10 o'clock in the morning until 5, and it's a free event. It's called Kwanzaa Festival, the annual Kwanzaa Festival. Again, it's December the 7th at Harrisburg Area Community College here in Harrisburg, and it's at the Cooper Student Union building. And we're really looking forward to having you come out. We're going to have a lot of wonderful vendors, all kinds of fantastic acts and information, and even the person in the national correspondence from CNN will be there to conduct a wonderful panel discussion of some local leaders. It's going to be a great time. Hope that you'll come out and make sure you meet Susan and Phil and sign up for Solidarity Uganda. Make sure that they sign up and get involved, right?
Yep. And visit the website too for Uganda jewelry. There's
Oh, you have a website for Uganda jewelry too. Oh, okay.
What's that website?
www.ugandajewelry.com.
UgandaJewelry.com.
And we also have a Facebook too for the jewelry.
Okay, Uganda Jewelry. Okay, I didn't know that. That's good
Okay,
to
so
know.
that's something that we learned too.
Yes, indeed. So if we were to travel to Uganda, what would you say to us? How should we prepare and where should we go if we were going to Uganda?
If you're coming to Uganda, first I would think you should come and visit where I come from. It's pretty. Northern Uganda.
Northern Uganda.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think you should also visit the western part of Uganda.
Western part? Okay.
I've just driven through there. I've not really been there for long, but they really have pretty mountains and the view is nice. Kampala is pretty crowded though. It's just like any other city. I wouldn't advise you to go to Kampala because it's just like it's crowded. Just like any other city.
What should we go see though?
So I would say you spread out further to the north and the extreme west and the east.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know we went to Senegal, there was the door of no return, that part where they talked about, and everybody had to do that. There was a Gori Island, that's where the door of no return is. And then there were many other things. There was the, the Pink River,
Pink Lake,
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So what kind of things in Uganda would you recommend? Is there, we're down to only 1 minute, but is there like museums or something to go to, or,
Yeah, there are museums to go to. Yep, there are museums to go to. Oh, the fun thing about Uganda is when you go shopping, it's not, the markets are not like here where you go to a house and it's like all closed. Yeah. But there you'll have the experience of shopping because everything is sold outside and pretty weather. So there's like, and then there's bargaining. You get to bargain for what you want to buy.
Well, I hate to cut you off before we run out of time, but this has been fantastic. We hope that you will support Susan and Phil with Solidarity Uganda. They, again, will be on December the 7th at Harrisburg Area Community College for the Kwanzaa Festival from 10 to 5. It's a free event. Hope to see you there. Have yourself a blessed day. Goodbye.